Meeting Tuesday, March 26th, 2019. Commissioner Hutchings is excused, and I'll be presiding over the meeting today with Commissioner Menser to my right, and La Bonita is going to be keeping everything straight. Is that right, La Bonita? And there we go. Got everybody's name up there. Well, that way the camera will get it right. Romero Chavez, Robin Campbell, and Elizabeth Petridge. They're actually here going to keep us in line as well. Okay. We'll call this meeting to order, and we'll have the Pledge of Allegiance led by Commissioner Menser. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, sir. Do we have a motion to approve the agenda for today, March 26th?
I would move to approve agenda for March 26th, 2019.
Second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Is there a motion to approve the board meeting minutes from March 19th, 2019?
Move to approve board meeting minutes from March 19th, 2019.
Second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. And we've got public comment coming up now. There are some guidelines for public comment, and we want to make sure that everybody gets their opportunity to address the board and the public, because the public is listening to this. It's not a time for the board to engage in dialogue with those that are speaking here today. But just because we don't engage in dialogue does not mean that we're not very interested in your topic. And any information that you present in written form becomes part of the public record under RCW 42.56. That's the Public Records Act. The board does not respond to public comments. On a need basis, the county manager will follow up with specific items. Speakers are limited to a total of 3 minutes to address the board. I know sometimes that might not be enough, and we've actually contemplated a change there, but for right now it's 3 minutes, and the clock is up here, and La Bonita will run the clock and let you know when your time's up. And we do ask that you try to finish your train of thought. We're not going to cut you off. Just finish up what you're doing and let us move on at that point. Meeting attendees cannot donate their speaking time to another person. The board reserves the right to restrict a person's opportunity to address the meeting for good cause. I would ask that you please silence your cell phones. No comments that are lewd or offensive to a reasonable person. Please be respectful. No outbursts of any kind. No comments that are commercial in nature, such as promotion for a for-profit business. No comments that are inflammatory, hateful, defamatory, or discriminatory. Remarks about pending land use permits or similar issues that may be coming before this board, we would ask that you not comment on them, because it might jeopardize your ability for us to make an adequate ruling for you or on the topic. And thank you for your cooperation on these issues. So, the first person up is Mr. John Pettit.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. My name's John Pettit. I live on Rich Road, Southeast in Olympia. And I have been bringing forth to you information related to the Henderson Watershed Shellfish District as one of my primary issues I've been bringing forth. Just This afternoon, I received a letter from Mr. Chavez regarding the county's current standing on some of that issues, and I want to kind of bring a couple things forward because it's clear that apparently the county is not interested in actually following their ordinances in fullness. We might even be trying to deflect what the ordinance actually say. So let me bring something forward to you first. Originally, the shellfish ordinance started in 2001, December 17, 2001. The actual shellfish area, or the Henderson Inlet Shellfish Protection Area, included land clearouts surrounding Patterson Lake, Long Lake, Hicks Lake, all of that area. In 2005, it became, there was a new ordinance, at which time they integrated a fee structure in, and they had made a determination that the area out there with the lakes, with all those waterfront properties out there, they were not going to be something that would be likely to be causing the inlet, Henderson Inlet, any type of pollution. And so therefore that area was removed. Well, the reason why, and that was the same time, there was provision, other than just listing what a health officer is, which is what was put into a letter, there was a provision within the ordinance and the Article 4, which was very clear, is that upon receiving new information, the boundaries can be adjusted and should be adjusted. It was suggested the reason why the health officer would be, well, that's to take the ones that went on the sewer off and show other ones that received septic. No, any new information. New information would include noting professional opinions that were hired by survey, paid for by the county and the state, that indicate there's no likely nature of polluting the creek and the Henderson Inlet. Those properties should have been removed. I'm taking it that the county manager, since he's the one that's directly dealing with you, has decided to take on all the responsibility of what he's reporting himself. That if the information he's found wrong, I'm sure he would be an honorable man and resign his position for giving you false information. I would like to have you reach out and talk to me if you need more direct information on it. My 3 minutes are up, but my numbers are available to be reached out, and I'll be happy to provide a full detailed list and information. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. And Mr. Terry Ballard, please.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. My name is Terry Ballard, and I own 2 properties in Tanglewild and 1 in Olympia. To caveat Mr. Pettit, that report is supposed to be annual, and we're still waiting for that annual report, or Mr. Pettit is. And off that report, you take certain areas off that no longer have contamination issues, kind of like Tanglewild, where I live. It has no issues of contamination. And that's what I have to say about that. Today I had the opportunity to park over in Lacey in a handicap parking. The area beside a single handicap space is usually left open so the handicapped people can access it. Well, the problem is that it was just depleted, and you could see the lines, but you had a person using it as a free space to park, and I had to really crunch in to get in there. When Mr. Don Krupp was the county manager, there was a program that was supposed to be added to the building inspections to have the people go out and inspect these positions to make sure that the people who own these parking lots comply with Disabilities Act. Well, that's fallen through, and I would firmly suggest that you reenact some way to inspect that so we can start to park, because when the lines are depleted and there's no sign posted and you can barely read it, people use that as a free parking spot. And I brought it up to Lacey PD, and I won't say that she was a female. You could have it either way. Either the building owner, the parking lot owner, needs to be cited, or the person parking in there needs to be cited. It had a sign, but it just didn't have the bright markings that they usually have. Other than that, I sure hope that we no longer have the Transportation Benefits District. I notice Commissioner Menzer was put on it for a short time and taken off. I just don't want something illegally to continue to be open so we can reinvent the wheel that shouldn't belong. So I would suggest if we do have a Transportation Benefits District still on the books, it needs to be shut down. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Doug Carmen.
Doug Garman, 4108 Cairo Road in Lacey. I'm the chair of the Long Lake Management District, and I'm before you today a second time making the same request, basically. The Long Lake Management District is requesting that the county contribute $15,000 in 2019 towards the revenue of the Long Lake Management District, and then escalating it each year after that, based on the interfund inflation rate. As you're aware, we're being charged the interfund costs. We're basically being apportioned the costs from the county just as if we were another department of the county. However, we don't really feel like we spend those kinds of funds. And we're doing basically volunteer work trying to maintain a lake within the county, which is a valuable asset of the county. The State Department of Wildlife, Fish and Wildlife, contributes over $21,000 to the district, and the city of Lacey contributes about $17,000 to the district, but the county does not contribute to the district. The county does, however, discount the storm sewer rates charged to individual members of the district, which was arranged many years ago as a reimbursement for the education function that we do, educating our members on their stormwater, how to manage it. We put out newsletters. We do a lot of things to help our members know and be responsible landowners. One of the responses we've gotten in the past from the county manager is that the county doesn't own any property on the lake, and so therefore you shouldn't have to contribute to the Lakes District. However, you have 11 stormwater outfalls that dump pollutants into the lake, and you have a road that goes over the inlet to the lake that drains about 200 yards of roadway into the inlet to the lake. So there's PCPs and other pollutants that are going directly into the lake. And the Lakes District has to handle those things. We have to worry about the algae that's growing because of that and take action and spend money. So So basically, the Lakes Management District does a lot of work to keep a valuable asset of the county viable and clean and usable by its residents. And not only do the residents of the lake use it, but county residents that don't live on the lake use it. And so we feel that the county should contribute. A way they can do that is right out of the stormwater funds, because it's stormwater that's doing the polluting. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. Shelley Dilworth.
Hello, good afternoon. I am here to address you guys in this format for the first time, but it's not the first time that I've talked with the commissioners. In 2017, I met individually with each commissioner to address an issue that I feel and is very important. Our planning department is a central part for every person in this community. Anytime you have to do something in this community, you have to go through this department. And it has to be a department that runs and works and coordinates together. It doesn't do that. They don't work together. And we are a prime example of that. In 2017, we came in here, we had just bought a property off of Delphi, the old fire station, which most of you know, and we wanted to develop that land. We want to put a home on it. We want to have that as our retirement property. We started out with that property. We own a business. It's a small business, a small tree service. Has 2 employees, my husband and my son. We want to move that business onto that property. We want to build a home on that property. We started to clear the property. Immediately, we had people complaining about us in that division. Sent out your inspectors. The inspector that came out there, and Mr. Chavez and the commissioners know, he was very rude, he was in my face, and he was very aggressive with me. Since then, he has continued to harass me. He has continued to harass our property. He has continued to badger and just cause us nothing but heartache and pain. I asked for him to be removed from our project in 2017. I was guaranteed in an email from Mr. Challam that he would be removed from our project, only to find out in a subsequent meeting that I just had he was not removed, and he was requested to be sent back out to our property, not once, but 4 separate times, to check on what we are doing on our property. That is the definition of harassment by your department, something that you have control over and you should control. I got in contact with Joshua Cummins, who has been working with me, who has been addressing these issues, who has been willing to look at this and evaluate the whole situation so that we weren't being given multiple different answers, sending out the same exact letter a year later from the initial letter being sent to us, and stalling our project for over 2 years. It's ridiculous. It's something that everybody has to go through this department for. Everybody in this community has to. Every single person. And it's something that needs to be addressed. So please take the time to evaluate it, talk with Joshua, because I have, and look at where your processes and procedures need to be improved. Thank you for your time today.
Thank you. That was the last person that signed up to testify in this afternoon's hearing. But is there anybody in the audience that possibly has had second thoughts and feels they want to testify? This is your time to do so, because we're going to be moving on with the meeting, and that time will then have lapsed. So anybody else interested? Okay. Thank you all for your testimony. Now we're at the county manager's update. Sir.
Yeah, thank you, Commissioners. Let me follow up with a couple of previous public testimonies, and one is from Mr. Pettit. He submitted a letter to you on March 19th, last Tuesday, and as Mr. Pettit stated today, he received a response to that letter from me today. I believe we have addressed the points that he made on the March 19, 2019 letter. Also, Mr. Pettit submitted a letter today to you, dated March 26, 2019. And where a couple of items on that stated the county manager has chosen not to communicate any actions to you, to the commissioners, since he has not seen an item related to this item on the agenda. Every Tuesday morning, I bring public comments that you have received and proposed responses under the item public testimony, which is included on your agenda every Tuesday morning. As you have reviewed the public testimony from Mr. Pettit and others, and I propose a response to those. If anything, I will encourage Mr. Pettit to look at the recording of the conversation this morning for additional information. Also, on the March 26th letter from Mr. Pettit, 2019, she makes a reference of a potential litigation against the county. At this point, I will not be able to respond to that comment. If there is a litigation against the county, then at that point, the county will respond accordingly when that litigation is filed. The other public testimony that you received 2 weeks ago was related by Mr. Mike Wright, and it was related to the biosolids, particularly related to a project the Department of Ecology has permitted in the Yelm area. So Mr. Wright requested the board to look at Title 24 of the Thurston County Code as it relates to the permitting authority related to biosolids permits. And under the statute, that will be the RCW 4321B in RCW 7095J0A0, the authority to permit any biosolids permits in any county, including Thurston County, lies on the Department of Ecology. Title 24 of the Thurston County Code it speaks about having a memorandum of agreement with the Department of Ecology as to how we can coordinate any particular biosolids permits in the county. Within that context, we received some feedback from the Department of Ecology, and although perhaps the law allows for them to delegate that permitting activity to the county, at this point they're not perceiving to delegate that authority to the county. So I just want to circle back in terms of the biosolids comment from Mr. Mike Wright. And at this point, we will continue to see how we can probably perhaps contacting our legislative delegation as to how the law could be changed to give more authority to the counties and local jurisdictions to how we permit biosolid applications in the future. And that's that on that respect. Also, I'd like to share the news. And then last week, we received some feedback from the from the county health rankings. That's a nationwide rankings where they placed Thurston County as a number 5 healthiest county in Washington State. And 5 years ago, to give you a perspective, Thurston County was number 9th healthiest county in the state. And just last year, it was number 6 healthiest on the state. So Thurston County scored quite well related to in Washington in several areas. Related to the number of graduating individuals from high school, lower rates in violent crimes, and having a health insurance coverage. That puts the county a little bit in the number 5. But also, we find out that we have opportunities to improve. And the opportunities to improve is in health behaviors. They will include reducing substance abuse, supporting physical activity, improving nutrition, and living a healthy environment. So we take this as a great news that we continue to move forward to be the healthiest county in the state, and also give us the opportunity to concentrate on the areas that we need to improve. My hope is that in next year we'll be number 4. And also I'd like to send kudos to Shelley Slaughter, the Director of Public Health and Social Services, and all the staff within that department who every single day, whatever activity you're requested to do, makes a difference to the community that we live in. That's all I have for you.
Thank you, sir. I would like to ask you one thing, though, even though we had no authority, is what we found out on the biosolids. This board did write a letter to the Department of Ecology and express our concerns on this issue. Is that right?
That is correct. Related to this particular permit on the Yelm area, the Department of Ecology issue a determination of non-significance. That is a determination through the SEPA process, the State Environmental Protection Act. And within the comment period, we realized that perhaps during that environmental assessment, they didn't take into account the potential impacts to water quality due to the proximity to the Nisqually River. So as a result of that, the Board of County Commissioners submitted a letter outlining their concern about this particular conclusion on the environmental process, and also staff from Public Health submitted another technical letter also highlighting some of the concerns they have, that perhaps they have not addressed some of the environmental issues as it relates to this particular permit. The Department of Ecology right now is in the process of assessing all the comments they have received on this particular permit. I don't have an answer for you as to when they're going to come up with a final determination. Depending on the final determination, then the county will assess what the next steps they will have available to us.
Okay, thank you, sir. So that is A and B from the County Commissioner's update. Is that right? Now we're going to move into the consent items A through E. And these are items that were discussed this morning at a work session starting at 9 o'clock this morning. For those citizens that are curious, that can still be viewed on live streaming, I believe. So even though we're going to move through those fairly quickly, they have been thoroughly discussed. So
Some of them discussed the previous week.
that's right, the previous Tuesday and the Tuesday before. So some are ongoing issues and some aren't, and there's a certain threshold of different issues that need to be met for it to be legally placed on this on the consent item agenda. Anyway, so I would entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion to adopt and approve consent items A through E.
Second? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes. Now we'll move on to department items, community planning and economic development. And this has to do with the Washington State University Extension, and the county manager is going to fill us in on this.
Yeah, thank you, Commissioners. Mr. Bramwell is not able to join you today, so let me walk you through the intent of this particular item before you. As you know, the county partners with the Washington State University Extension, where they provide many services to the community, from farming to 4-H, from stormwater training and education. So this particular item before you is to formalize a partnership. It is included on the 2019 county budget, $145,237. And as in any particular transaction, again, we need to have a formal instrument. In this case, is an agreement with the extension in order for us to process the payment. So the $145,237 will be dedicated to fund portions of the director position in the order of $24,150, for portions of the 4-H coordinator for $46,350, portions of the stormwater management extension coordinator that will be $25,000. Portions of the Working Lands Resource Management Coordinator for $20,000, and also $29,737 for the 4-H assistant. That will total $145,237. Do you have any questions?
Any questions?
I don't think so.
No, like I said, we've covered these items several times over. So I would entertain a motion.
I'll move to approve the interagency agreement between Thurston County and Washington State University Extension in the amount of $145,237.
Second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. That motion passes. We're on to public health. And is the county manager going to take this, or
No,
is Chris?
Chris Hawkins is here.
Chris Hawkins is going to come up and fill us in about what's percolating at public health.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. My name is Chris Hawkins, Program Manager with Thurston County Public Health and Social Services, and I'm here today to request that you approve an amendment to a contract or agreement that we have with Thurston Regional Planning Council to deliver safe and active routes to school programming here in Thurston County. This amendment would extend the duration that we can offer the support for local schools to participate in safe routes to schools for another school year, basically taking the end date from this year to the end of July in 2020. This is basically just an extension of duration. There's no change in the dollar amount. We have enough funds available to continue to offer these services in the community. We have already drafted at this point action plans for a couple of school districts, having completed an assessment of safe school zones in Rainier and Tenino. And we're working with partners to implement some of the strategies that we've identified through that assessment process. And I just want to add that this kind of program is a way for the county to implement some important strategies, namely Initiative 1 in its strategic plan of improving health outcomes for all. And in particular, within that strategy, increasing health outreach and targeting investments in programs that support school-aged youth. So Safe Routes to School programs are about not just changing the environment around schools to make them safer, which is a big part of it, of course, but also doing education and encouragement efforts around traffic safety, encouraging kids to engage in physically active transportation. That means walking or bicycling to school, doing that with their families in a way that they learn those safe behaviors. And it helps our county also towards a goal in the Thurston Thrives Community Design Action Team, which is aimed at increasing opportunities for people to be physically active in their daily lives. And on top of that, it's also injury prevention. So this is helpful towards the county's goals in programs like Target Zero, where we're trying to reduce the number of crashes that occur in our county that result in fatalities, but also prevention of other injuries associated with traffic and use of our roadways. So we're very excited to be able to continue to offer this program here in Thurston County and work with our partners to continue to deliver this important work with our local schools.
Thank you, Chris. Any questions?
You mentioned plans for Rainier and Tenino. What's the scope? I mean, are those the focused communities, or are you working with other communities?
Those are the school districts that we're starting with this funding. It will allow us to work at least with those two school districts. We could add additional if there is more interest out there. We currently are partnering with Thurston County Public Works on another Safe Routes to School project that is serving a school in North Thurston School District. So Olympic View Elementary School is receiving that program. And Intercity Transit is offering its walk and roll program to a number of schools in Tumwater and Olympia, and increasingly in North Thurston as well. So there's a fairly extensive offering of this kind of support throughout the county, and it is one that we like to see other partners taking on because it's so evidence-based. There's a strong track record for these programs being effective in improving public health.
Was there a reason why Rainier and Tenino are the focus versus anyone else?
These two school districts were ones that did not have a program prior to this grant. So this was an opportunity to bring Safe Routes to School to communities that have a compact town near the schools, so there are a number of kids and families who would benefit from having that kind of program to support them in getting to and from the school in an active way and a safe way.
There's a reference in here to an approved dollar amount. Do you have that number handy?
The approved dollar amount for the overall for the grant was $59,000 at the outset, or roughly. I don't have the exact number in front of me. of which we have to match 13.5%. So I think the total grant amount is somewhat under $50,000 when we match that with local funds.
Thank you, Chris.
You're very welcome.
Okay. I would entertain a motion on this issue.
I'll move to approve amendment number 1 to the professional services agreement with Thurston Regional Planning Council for the Safe and Active Routes to School project, extending the end date to July 31st, 2020, and authorize the Director of Public Health and Social Services to sign this amendment and future amendments that do not change the approved dollar amount or duration by more than 25%.
Second. All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Thank you very much,
Motion-
Commissioners.
That
Thank you
motion
for
passes.
getting us moving towards number 4 on the county health rankings, or better.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. And now from Public Health and Social Services, Gary Aiden is going to fill us in on an issue, housing.
Thank you. Gary Aiden, Public Health and Social Services. This item today has to do with an adjustment of funding amongst our nonprofit agencies to be certain that we spend all of the money we've been allocated for those purposes by the state of Washington. Currently, an organization called Sidewalk here in the county is not going to spend all of their revenues that they've been allocated through the funding process. And so we're going to reduce the funding going to Sidewalk by 116,000, excuse me, and redistribute that money to Interfaith Works and the Family Support Center to do the same activities of providing rapid rehousing and outreach to homeless individuals here in the streets of Olympia and Thurston County. The money is from the Consolidated Homeless Grant, which is funding that comes to the county from the state of Washington, and from the 2163 Homeless Housing Fund, and from our administrative money from CHG that the county has received. We have the surplus in admin and emergency funding because we've been running short of staff. For the last year, we have not filled a staff position, so we have additional funds there that we have not spent, and that's why we can provide the administrative money for this. So our request today is that you would reduce the sidewalk contract by $116,000, allow us to add the $21,500 in administrative and emergency funding to create 2 new programs, contracts with Interfaith Works for the Navigators Program and the Family Support Center for a Rapid Rehousing Program, serving single adults here in Thurston County.
Sir.
Mr. Chance.
Yes, sir.
The proposed action before you, based on what I'm hearing from Gary, the reduction to sidewalk is only $116,000, and on the motion is $127,000. So I may suggest the commissioners read the action and then introduce an amendment, and then perhaps consider taking a final action with the amendment.
And you're suggesting that change from 127 to 116?
Yeah, but perhaps you need to read the action first.
Right.
Then maybe Commissioner Messer can introduce that friendly amendment to 116, and then you may consider approving as amended.
Okay, let's try that and see if it works.
Okay. Just one question for Gary.
Yes, sir.
The groups that are involved in this shifting
Yes.
were involved in this conversation? Is that,
Yes.
And they're across the board agreeing to our approach here?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Just wanted to clarify that because that was an important conversation we had a little bit over a week ago. So at this point, shall I make the motion then? I will
Please.
move to approve a contract reduction from Sidewalk of $127,000, allocate $21,500 in county emergency and administration funding, increase Family Support Center $124,000 for a rapid rehousing program, and allocate Interfaith Works $24,500 for the Navigator program.
So you may introduce.
And I would like to introduce a friendly amendment to correct a typo, and that 127,000 should really be 116,000.
I second that amendment.
Okay, so
You vote on the amendment,
All in
please?
favor of the amendment?
all in favor of the amended amendment, say aye. Is that going to work?
Yep, yep.
Aye.
Aye.
Now you may
Okay.
consider
That
passing
passes.
an action on.
So
with the
now
amendment.
we can take a motion on the adjusted original motion. Is that correct, sir?
Yeah.
Okay. So, we had that motion, and it's been adjusted, and I seconded it. So I would take the vote on
On the amended action.
motion.
Yep.
All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Did we get that right, Greg? Okay, and that motion passes. Thank you
Thank
very
you, sir.
much, Gary.
Thank you.
Okay, now we're down to the commissioners and county managers items. So, Commissioner, do you have anything that you want to report on before we end this meeting?
Sure. Just going backwards from the last meeting, attended interesting presentation in Yelm on rural water issues, which all three commissioners actually were there. And we had presentations from not only the mayor of Yelm about the legal challenges that Yelm has faced in securing additional water rights, but an individual from Department of Ecology, the director of their water resource program, Mary Werner, and a farmer, local farmer, who talked about the practices that the agricultural community has been taking to try to be more efficient with water resources using new technology, and something as simple as app on your phone that can predict the weather more precisely than they've had access to in past years. And then there was a member of the Conservation District was there as well. Segueing into today, the Conservation District vote, it happened. I went to vote at lunch noon hour. There's only one candidate. There's an opportunity to write someone in, but folks are encouraged to go vote and show support and just getting education out, because we're going to have other seats and we want more people in the community to hear about the Conservation District and the very funky way that you have to vote to be a part of it. So I think there was about over 1,000 ballots issued, which is, other than the last commissioner, the last election we had, it far outpaces previous elections in terms of people's awareness of this issue. So, took a tour of Coyote Village yesterday, which I had seen presentations about, slides, pictures in the newspaper, but had never seen with my own eyes. Very impressive place. So that was, I thank them for offering their time to me yesterday. Had a coffee with commissioner meeting with the members of the community yesterday, focused on the courthouse project, and we got a lot of good input from the public and feedback about concerns and questions. And then finally, on Friday, I'm the board's delegate to the Chehalis Basin Partnership. We've heard a lot about our Nisqually watershed plan, which was done in a very compressed time frame. The Chehalis Basin now is starting the same process, and they've got about twice as much time. They're going to have about 18 months to do what was done in 9 months in Nisqually. Some of the things that were done in Nisqually will translate to Chehalis and some won't. It's a different watershed with different topography and different development pattern and flooding issues and et cetera. So I will be on the planning. There's going to be 3 levels of groups, and a consultant's been hired that are going to be working on that. I will be at the kind of upper level planning unit for that watershed planning. I'm really excited about that. So that was my week.
Okay, I guess it's already been mentioned that all 3 commissioners were at that meeting on water, and that was hosted by the League of Women Voters. And they've got a series that's going on around the county, and I would encourage you to look into it and participate if you've got an interest in that area. I would also, another issue that we are dealing with here that's a big issue is our homeless issue. And we are working in conjunction with the municipalities And I would encourage individuals maybe to watch Channel 4. They've got a program called Seattle is Dying. And I would hope that we don't end up in that same situation. So I would just encourage that for our audience for viewing. The other issue that I spent a lot of time on this week was water quality. Some of it had to do with the biosolids up on the Nisqually River. But there's another segment, and I would encourage those individuals that are interested to look into, there's a book called Toxic Pearl. And I would just encourage that you take a look at it. It has to do with the shellfish industry and water quality. So we seem to have water quality issues at both ends of the spectrum, all the way along. Anyway, that'll do it for me. The county manager is now going to give us a schedule, I believe.
Yeah, thank you, Commissioners. Let me begin some of the highlights of your past week as a board. On Wednesday, March 20th, you had a briefing related to the Western Washington Phase 2 Municipal Stormwater Permit Annual Report. Also on March 20th, you had an annual briefing from the Stormwater Advisory Committee. Also on March 20th, the Sheriff's Office came and gave you the state of the Sheriff's Office, as well as some proposals of consolidation of the Sheriff's facilities. At noon on March 20th, you had a follow-up courthouse project update as we move forward on the process. And at 2 in the afternoon on March 20th, you had a briefing related to the Development Code docket for 2019. Moving on to this week, here at 3 in the afternoon, you will hold a public hearing where you receive public testimony related to potential changes to Thurston County Code 5.49050. That relates to the Treatment Sales Tax Advisory Committee membership. Wednesday, March 29th, tomorrow, you have a webinar related to ethics, endorsement, and support by an elected official, county officials during elections. And that will be held in this room. Thursday, March 28th, you have a briefing related to tobacco and vapor product prevention, and give you some potential options as you may take action in the future. At 10, March 28th, you had a commissioner's check-in, and an agenda will be placed 24 hours in advance. Friday, March 29th, you have a planning session from 8:30 in the morning to 5 in the afternoon, and that's going to be located off-site on the Rainier Room of the Tilley campus. That will be on the Public Works campus located on the Tilley Road. And an agenda will be published 24 hours in advance as well. Moving on to next week, nothing on Monday, April 1st, and then we'll come back here Tuesday, April the 2nd. You'll be reviewing the agenda in the morning and your regular board meeting in the afternoon. Thank you.
Okay, we'll move on to C, and that is that the adjournment here was part of our agenda, so we will reconvene here in just a little over 10 minutes to hold a public hearing.
Entertain a motion to adjourn.
I thought we didn't do that.
I thought that was a new thing. The class said we didn't have to. It was part of.
Well, I think it's better to adjourn the Board of County Commissioners meeting and then reconvene for the public hearing.
Okay, well, I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
Happy to move to adjourn.
Second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. We are adjourned until 3 o'clock.